a deep sense, not in a transient sense, but in a deep sense. And kind of knowledge at a real basic level, way too simplistically, but there's sort of what our senses know. In other words, like I'm looking at this book and this book has a light brown cover. I can sense that. There's what our physical senses know, and then there's what our spiritual senses know. And oftentimes our physical senses can be tricked. We can see things and we're not really seeing them accurately. We can smell odors that aren't there. I mean, you can go down the list, right? Physical senses have limits to them. And spiritual senses, they don't have the same kind of approach. A spiritual sense is, what do I know in my heart? And another way to say it is, what does love really know? What does love truly know? So I want to read for you a passage here out of the book Secrets of Heaven, and this is 2479. It's talking a bit about that, like how we can have these different levels of knowledge. If we believe that all intelligent awareness dies in the other world when the use of our physical memory ends, we do not know a thing. The reality is that the more we draw our mind away from thoughts and urges out of our senses and body, the higher that awareness soars towards spiritual and heavenly ideals. And that idea of soaring. So it's important that we know stuff physically, and we're not an aesthetic faith that believes there's this huge division between the physical and the spiritual. We believe the way to see the physical stuff is to see it from a spiritual perspective, and that the physical stuff is actually the containment and base of all kinds of wonderful spiritual things. And as we grow older, we want to be able to put more and more of sort of our focus on what we know from a deep spiritual sense, because the physical sense is the physical body slowly deteriorates. I think we all know that, certainly experience that when you're in your middle years and your older years, that's for sure. And so what does that mean? Like, how do we sort of press into that knowledge? Well, I had the experience this morning. I got on an early morning walk every morning, listened to podcasts and different things, and was listening to a podcast, and it was just so negative. It's about how everything is doom and gloom and doom and gloom and doom and gloom. And it actually had some other podcasts that were a little more informative. So I decided, well, I'll just look at their list of the podcasts they have. It was one doom and gloom thing after another. There was nothing upbeat. There was nothing positive. It was all about sort of, the end of the world as we know it. So it's an economics podcast. And so how to protect yourself against the coming fill in the blank. Now, there may be a big economic correction coming. I don't know. And it doesn't really matter that much, to be honest. It would make me sad. It would make part of me anxious. But the reality is, in the big picture of life, none of that really matters all that much. And I feel that at a body level, we can get into kind of that doom scrolling and all the anxieties, worries, fears, anxieties, worries, fears, anxieties, worries, fears, wash, rinse, repeat over and over and over again. And then we can find those podcasts and those social media sites and those YouTube videos that just feed into that again and again and again. You end up with this crazy cycle going on. But notice what it said there. It says, once we put that aside, our thoughts will soar. Not just elevate, will soar. That's really interesting. So we kind of put that aside and go like, yeah, I'm not going to live in that space. Now, that doesn't mean that space won't come true. It doesn't mean that there won't be some big economic whatever. There may well be, and there may not be. We don't know. And it doesn't really matter, because we're talking about transcendent values here. In other words, values, a peace, a love that is above all that regardless of this happening, there's something greater than all that. And that's what our souls really know. Our souls really know that there is this transcendent thing. And as a pastor, I mean, it's why it's so beautiful, like getting to do weddings and funerals and baptisms, because what are those? Those are all just reminders again and again of these transcendent values, these things that are beyond all this muck and mire down here. And we allow a moment for our thoughts to soar. And just think about that, friends, for as you're going into the day. Don't get caught up in this. If you're doom scrolling, use famous words from a famous comedian, like stop it. Take a look at the playlist. If the playlist has one negative story after another, stop it. Get out of that world. It's not a good world. It's not a healthy world. And that doesn't mean being Pollyannish. If there's hard stuff you need to look at it, by all means look at it. But don't live in it. Don't live in it. Instead, as best as you can, keep it in its right place and go to what your soul really knows. Go to that thing that is higher as best you can. And again, we won't do it perfectly, but life is about progress, not perfection, anyways. But just allow that and notice how your thoughts soar. When we put away fear, anxiety, all that stuff, the frenetic stuff, the doom scrolling stuff, we put that away. Where do our thoughts go? Kind of interesting. They can go to a much better place. And they usually will, especially if we're thinking about how can I serve today? What does love know? How can I serve? Boom, you're off to the races, soaring into a brand new stratosphere. So there's the thought for today, friends. I hope that makes a lot of sense, and wishing you all the best with knowing the best of things today. So with that, take a little breath. And now we shift into our morning meditation. And our meditation's pretty straightforward. What we do is we do a little meditation from the Old Testament, a little prayer from the New Testament, a little blessing back to the Old Testament for a little blessing, and we say hi to folks who are leaving a comment on Facebook. So with that, dear friends, let's hear our prayer bell. Sorry about that. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am. Be still and know that I. Be still and know that. Be still and know. Be still and. Be still. Be. Our Father, who art in the heavens, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, as in heaven, so upon the earth. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we also forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you, bring you peace, and bring you home. Amen. All right, dear friends, let's get a little cheery hello. Flipping over here on the people who are joining us from Facebook. I hope you're all, I hope you have a beautiful day ahead of you, actually. Giuliani, great to see you. A very helpful message, very wise insights. You are welcome, and thank you to Manuel Swedenborg and his book, Secrets of Heaven. They are lots of great stuff in there. Linda, good morning to you. I hope you're doing well, my friend. Marcus, good morning, buddy. Hope life is good for you. That was nice meeting with you yesterday for a little powwow. All righty, let's flip on over to here. See if any comments. Come on up. Come on, Nelly. Come on. All right, no comments over there. So, friends, just wishing you all the very best. May God bless your day. May you